What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jay, back at you with another episode of Talking to Myself. Talking to Myself is a series where I share with you guys some of the things I've gone through and some of the things that I've learned while sprinkling in some stuff that's not so sad. If you like that, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends because we are trying to get to 100 subs, and at 100 subs, we'll give a car away. I'm not giving a car away, but we'll give something away, all right? Like, comment, subscribe, boom! All right. So, back to school season. I'm super excited about back to school season because tomorrow, Monday, is welcome week for GCU. So, I don't know if you guys are already back in school. I don't know if you guys are getting ready to move in. I don't know. I dropped out, so I hardly know anything about it. But if you are moving in, that's exciting. If you're not, well, that sucks. And if you're at GCU, well, say hi. The reason why I'm so excited about school this year is a lot of different reasons. So, one, I'm just excited. I love my job. For those of you who don't know, I run the Esports program at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been here since October of 2021, where I joined as the youngest esports director in the United States of America. Fact check me on it. I was 22 years old. If you know anybody who was younger than 22 years old, you let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to keep saying that I was the youngest in the country. Done talking about myself. The other reason why I'm excited is because we actually got moved this year to a different department on campus. So before, I won't get into all the nitty gritty with you guys. Before we were part of a different department. This year, we are now part of the College of Arts and Media. So we went from being a non-academic group to now we're completely tied in with one of the academic groups on campus. And that's a really big deal because we grew a lot since I've been here. We're at 700 students before. Now we're right under 2,000 students that are part of our program. And because of that, academics is wondering what they could gain from us. So don't exactly know what form that's going to take yet. We're going to be figuring it out. But once I find out exactly what we're doing, I cannot wait to share it with you guys because we already have a lot of really exciting ideas. So that's really exciting, and I'm super excited for back to school season this year. The other thing that I'm super excited about that just wrapped up was the Esports World Cup. I'll be honest, I didn't watch a lot of it. Honestly, just because I don't really watch a lot of anything. You guys have heard it when it comes to me and my content. I'm a pretty self-absorbed person. I love my life. I love me. I love the people in my life. And I don't really know any esports players. I don't have any friends who are professional esports players. If I did, maybe I would watch a little bit more. And I'm the same way with sports. I'm probably going to start watching some more sports this year. As you can tell, I'm probably gonna start watching some more sports this year, but it's just hard for me to sit down and want to watch anything that ain't got to do with me. But I did see the Esports World Cup. It was super exciting, and what I was most impressed with was Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi closed the Esports World Cup. He was like the closing act for their closing ceremony, and that was super cool. So if you didn't see the Esports World Cup, you should check it out. If you don't know who Kid Cudi is, you should check him out. I think a Kid Cudi. These are both Kid Cudi tattoos. This one's Day and Night, and this one's 808s and Heartbreak. This Kanye and Kid Cudi. So yeah, you guys should check it out because I obviously love Kid Cudi. I don't think I have any more Kid Cudi tattoos. I should do a tattoo tour one day because I've got some pretty cool tattoos. And I'm one of those people who every tattoo that they have has meaning to it. So I'm pretty annoying. So every single one has like a deep story. I'm annoying about it. Maybe one day I'll tell you guys about it. And on the topic of esports, man, I actually saw, I don't know how many of you guys watch esports, follow esports. I would imagine some of you do, considering that you're here with me. An interview by Colin and Samir. I'm not super familiar with Colin and Samir, but I've seen them on YouTube. I know that they're YouTube OGs. They've been doing interviews for a long time. They interviewed Nadeshot and Courage JD, who are co-owners of 100 Thieves, which is a North American esports organization. They were on there. Nadeshot and Courage were on the show, and they did kind of a deep dive into 100 Thieves for the first time I've ever seen. And it was super interesting because without getting too much into the details about it, Nadeshot talked a lot about, I guess, the things that they don't normally. And he made it pretty clear that he has some, I guess, regrets about the way that he's handled 100 Thieves, the mark that they've had on esports, state as a whole, and kind of, the influence that 100 Thieves has had on it. And it was really interesting because for those of you who don't know, I'm a child of the internet. That's always what I call myself. And my thing was, growing up, I really liked Nadeshot. I loved Optic, I loved FaZe, I love Hex, I love Banks, but more than those people, Hex and Banks were cool, but I didn't like them nearly as much as I liked Nadeshot, because Nadeshot was more like me. Nadeshot was a little goofy, he was kind of poor. He was goofy and poor, and those were like the two biggest things that I identified with as a kid. And so I really liked Nadeshot. I followed him a lot, and when he started 100 Thieves, I was super excited because he was doing what I always wanted to do, and he was doing it after doing a lot of the things that I always wanted to do. And I'll be honest, I loved it at first. It was super cool because the guy that I grew up watching started something that I've always wanted to do, and even something that I wasn't successful at. And we'll get to that story one day later. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking about Kid Collective. If you know what that is, you can look it up because it's out there. I followed Nadeshot with 100 Thieves journey, was was really in love with it at the very beginning. And just after a while, man, I started, I guess, falling out of love with like him and also the 100 Thieves brand, because it just felt really fake to me, man. It just felt really like manufactured. It just didn't feel esports, man. It felt very like suit and tie. It felt the way that FaZe felt when they went public. You know how everybody knows about how they went public and it was suits versus OGs? That's how 100 Thieves felt for the last, to me, up until like maybe like 6 months ago. 100 Thieves felt like FaZe. It was just very like empty. It was very like, we do esports, but what do you mean by that? You know, Nadeshot's the only person I know that's part of your guys' group, you know, and obviously they have Broke AB and Courage and all this JHB and all those people, but it just felt really fake to me. And it was really, I guess, eye-opening to me to hear Nadeshot talk about some of the mistakes that they've made and some of the ways that he's aware they've been inauthentic. And it gave me a lot of respect for him, because it's hard, man. It's hard to run a company. It's hard to run a brand. It's hard to be a leader. And above all of those things, man, as a human, I know this because we're all humans. We all know this. It's hard to be wrong. And it's hard to admit that you're wrong to millions of people when you're the guy. You know, you're the guy in charge, you're the man at the end of the day, right? It was really, again, without getting too much into the details, the interview, you should go watch it if you haven't seen it. The interview was really eye-opening to me, and it made me respect Nadeshot a lot, because it made it very obvious to me that he's struggling to figure out what he wants his legacy to be in esports, you know? And I think that I understand that, because we're in a really weird spot with esports right now, where we're after the crypto, we're after the sports washing attempts, you know, and we're now in this place where we're being supported by, you know, Saudi Arabian investment, and, you know, obviously that has moral and ethical implications. But it's one of those things where, like I said, I've come to gain a lot of respect for Nadeshot just from that interview. And not only did I gain respect for him, but I actually I almost feel bad for him. I know from being the leader of this program, being the president at Mississippi State, running my own company, leading multiple teams at multiple points in my life. I've been a leader my whole life. I just know that it's not easy to lead, you know, and I know it's not easy to be wrong. And for Nadeshot to get up there and to be honest about not only missteps, but also some of his personal and professional struggles as it relates to trying to be professional, but also trying to be the face of a brand, you know, to some degree, you have to be a little bit goofy to attract people to your brand. But at the same time, if you're the CEO, you can't jump on stream talking about fuck this and fuck that while playing Valorant, or so the business world tells you. Nadeshot talked a lot about that, and also just how hard it is to be a businessman and a friend and an influencer. And it was just really eye-opening to me, and it made me reflect a lot on kind of my position in esports. And again, if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. I'm done talking about it. You're cool, Nadeshot. That's it. Okay, I'm done. Stroking Nadeshot. Sorry. Also, I don't think I mentioned this anywhere. I met Nadeshot at the Esports Awards in like 2021 in Las Vegas, Nevada, almost in California. Las Vegas, Nevada, which is crazy. That's it. Life's just crazy, and I forget to talk about these things because life's crazy. That's it. Past all the esports junk and all the work junk, I have been in the gym. I know you can't tell, and I think you can see my bingo wing, but that was fun. But, been in the gym, I figured out that I gotta, hold up, oh, it's right here, look. I figured out, bro, that I gotta eat 3,100 calories. I'm 20 pounds underweight. I've been 160 since high school. I've been like 155, 160 since high school. I've always been skinny, as you can tell. I don't know if you saw my green shirt, but you weren't supposed to. It's supposed to be like Zoom. I got this up here. Did y'all see my slippers? Anyway, yeah, I found out that I gotta eat 3,100 calories, which isn't that much, but that's a lot of food. So yeah, I'm on a meal plan this week. I'm working out 4 times a week now. I'm doing cardio now too, which is not fun. I hate it. But I'm back in the gym. Me and Sarah have been going together. It's been super cool. They keep trying to talk me into a trainer membership, like get a trainer. Bro, you know how much it costs for a trainer bi-weekly? Once a week, $800. To see one trainer once a week. So 2 times a month, $800. That shit is crazy. And not only is it expensive as fuck and crazy as fuck, you mean to tell me the people who sell those things are relentless, bro. Listen, I'm definitely the type of person who goes to the gym. I'm trying to get in and out, bro. I got my workout plan. I got it on my phone. I put my headphones on and I go. I'm trying to get out of there in 30 minutes flat if I can help it. Why do the people who sell it, they don't take no for an answer the first, second, 10th, 8th, 100th, millionth time? Why the people at the EOS Fitness, why y'all make me gotta be mean to y'all? Why y'all can't just, salesmen everywhere. I know it's your job, I understand, I don't care. After I tell you no, leave me alone. The people at the EOS keep trying to sell me the damn membership. I keep trying to tell them, my brother's a football coach, my best friend's a doctor, that's it. All of my best friends are weightlifters. weightlifters. I don't need your advice. Everybody that I know was an athlete, played college sports. One of my friends, bro, state championship weightlifter. I don't need your damn help, EOS fitness trainer. I got all the people that I need. Leave me the hell alone. All that to say, I've been back in the gym. It's been super fun. I am currently actually making yogurt. If you haven't seen my yogurt video, you should go check it out. Currently making yogurt. Currently, I think that's it. I also made gelato for the week this week. That's gonna be my snacks for the week. And I got something I want to show y'all that's gonna be my snacks for the week. All right, so y'all know about adult money, right? Y'all know about adult money? They shouldn't give me access to adult money because you wanna know what I bought the other day? 32 Fruity Pebbles bars. 32 of them. You wanna know why they're like this and why I'm showing you this side? Because I already ate one whole box. This box, gone. Nope, this box is gone. This box, there's only like 4 left. I've had them for like 2 days. Yeah. This right here, best snack in the world. So I got these and I'm pretty excited about it. These are my snacks too. And I'm also excited the reason why I'm telling you guys is because I'm excited to keep you guys up to date with some of the struggles and also victories I'm gonna have with it, because the biggest one is gonna be exactly what I said earlier, gonna be eating. But from what I've gathered, and kind of from my perspective, I feel like this is the better side to be on because I don't eat a lot. And I'd much rather be in a position to have to eat more than have to eat less. Because from what I've gathered from all of my friends, as long as you eat, as long as you get like the nutrients that you need, outside of those nutrients, the proteins, the carbs, the fiber, those types of things, as long as you get those things in, you can pretty much eat whatever you want. So I'm kind of at a place where like I'm super excited because I'm super excited to have an excuse to eat a whole pizza or an excuse to eat another Cane's meal. And I'm also excited to share with you guys how easy it is, because I think that, like with cooking, like a lot of the cooking videos that I do, it just seems really daunting because a lot of the people that you see are gym bros, they're Bradley Martin, they're the other big Sam Solik. There's a lot of those big guys that make this thing seem really hard to approach, and I want to make it a little easier to approach because I'm also doing the journey with Sarah. We're both kind of on the same path right now, so we're gonna be figuring it out together. We're gonna be sharing it with you guys, so stay tuned for all that. Super excited about it. Bought some cool snacks, made some cool gelato. Probably gonna show you guys how to do that this week because our dairy series is coming this week. We're gonna be starting dairy this week. You're gonna be seeing some kind of dairy meal, whether it's gelato, whether it's yogurt, whether it's sour cream, whether it's cheese. Y'all gonna be seeing something Thursday and Friday of this week, so check it out. Should be on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That's it. I'm gonna be back on Twitter too, but I'm only gonna be back on Twitter. I said it the other day. I'm gonna be back on Twitter only to talk shit. So if you want to follow me on Twitter at DeshaunJason, you can do that. But you're really only gonna be seeing me talking shit about myself. So that's all there. Okay, and I understand y'all come here for a reason. You come here to talk about what I've gone through and what I've learned. So I'll finally get to the damn story. I'm sorry for talking about all the stuff that I am, and by that I mean I'm not. If you like me, you listen. All right, so this one's not as much about the story as it is the slurry of emotions that I've been feeling about it lately. So for those of you who don't know, my full name is Jason Alexander Deschamps. That's my full name. I'm named after, you're gonna have to try to keep up with me here. I'm named after my adoptive father, who I didn't know was my adoptive father until I was about 10 years old. All right. So to my knowledge, he was my father at birth, Jason Albert Deschamps. My mom named me Alexander after Alexander the Great, and because she thought Albert was fat and ugly. So, and thanks mom, because I agreed. Sorry, Dad. I didn't really ever question my parents, my dad, my whoever, because I didn't really have any reason to. Growing up, my grandparents raised me, so try to keep you guys up to speed here. My grandparents, who are my mother's parents, so that's who I'm referring to when I say grandparent. They raised me. You will also very often hear me refer to them as my parents because they raised me. Keep it up here. I had my dad, who I called dad. By the way, I called Jason my dad. That is my dad. He helped raise me. He was there for me as a kid. That's it. He was in the room when I was born, I think. That's my dad. So you'll never hear me refer to him as Jason. You'll never hear me refer to him as anything else. That is my dad. If I'm ever saying dad, I'm never talking about my biological father. So I had Jason, I had Jennifer, who was my mother, and then I had their parents, my mom's parents, my grandparents, and they raised me. So I never really questioned too much who I was or, you know, where I came from until I'll never forget. I was 10 years old and I was at family Christmas, and you guys know, and maybe you don't, because I've talked to some people about this, and this might be a somewhat of a Southern thing, but like we were all sitting in the big kid circle getting ready to open our gifts, you know, and the way we did it in our family was the youngest opened first and you worked all the way up to the oldest, and I was the second oldest cousin of all of the cousins. So I normally sat there and waited to go second to last. And I remember while everybody was opening all their gifts that year for whatever reason, I remember just looking around, man, and kind of being a 10-year-old kid sitting crisscross applesauce. I could not say crisscross applesauce, actually, I'm lying. I was sitting. I've always been inflexible. I was inflexible as a kid. I'm inflexible now. But I remember looking around and literally looking down at my skin and looking at all of my other white cousins in the room and be like, I look like this. My mom, who was white, looks like that. My grandparents, who were white, look like that. And my dad, he's white. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, how do I look like this? And so I remember I asked my parents on the way home, like, yo, what is the deal? And at first they were like, we don't know, shut up. Basically, trying to get me to just like not worry about it, right? We don't know, leave us alone. And you guys know this about me. I'm gonna ask the question, I'm gonna get an answer. You can tell me no, but I'm gonna get an answer, and you're gonna have to give me a real answer for me to shut up about it. And so my parents, I'm arguing with them on the way home, arguing with them, and they finally break and they finally tell me, like, Jake, your dad's not your dad. What? And they told me that my mother had me at 15 years old with somebody who they still didn't know, because at that point, my mother was still alive. She was in and out of rehab. My mother was still alive at that point, but she had never shared with them who the man was that she got pregnant by. If that makes sense. So my parents didn't know who my dad was, but they knew that Jason wasn't my dad. And my mother, who was still alive at that time and like still in our lives, she refused to tell anybody about it. So that was it. So they're basically like, we know that you're not white. We don't know what you are, and we don't know who your dad is. That's it. Talk to your mom. And so cool. I wasn't super worried about it. It was more like, okay, cool. Now I know why I look a little different. Great. Now I also know why I feel a little different. Great. Throughout middle school and high school, I could have given a shit less about who my biological father was. I mean, I had a great life. So after, and you guys know about this, after I was removed from my mother's house, we moved in with my grandparents in middle school. So I moved in with my grandparents in 5th grade. And I don't think I even thought about or cared about who my real dad was until I was in 10th grade. I don't even think I was even remotely worried about it, because again, outside of all the sad things and like bad things that happened in my life, once I got with my grandparents, life was good, man. My grandparents made good money. They were living on the river. They had us in sports. They got us basically anything that we wanted, pretty much. I mean, it's not even basically. My parents pretty much got us everything that we wanted, from games to clothes to hanging out with friends. Like I got pretty much everything that I asked for growing up once I moved in with my grandparents. And I didn't care. Again, I didn't care about it until about 10th grade. And I remember there was some friction in the family when I wanted to do an ancestry test to figure out what I was, because at the time I was getting a lot of like Puerto Rican. I was getting a lot of like, you look like Mexican, or you look Puerto Rican, or you look something that's not black. That's what I got from a lot of people. I got Dominican, I got Puerto Rican, I got Mexican, like a lot growing up. And from some of my black friends, I'm getting like, hey man, you look like us. I remember being confused and just wanting to go get the ancestry done to figure it out. It was a long haul. Me and my folks got into arguments about it. They didn't want to do it. I did want to do it. They didn't want to uncover some shit that might hurt people, which we did in the end. So sorry, grandparents, because y'all were right. But finally got it done in 10th grade. And I did it on Ancestry. If you guys aren't familiar, you spit in a tube, you send it in, 4 to 6 weeks later. They tell you a few different things. First one was your ethnicity. So they told me that I was, at the time, it came back as 60% white, 40% black. It has since evened out over time because they update it every now and then. And I'm 50-50, obviously, because my mom's white, my dad's black. Found that out through Ancestry. So through Ancestry, I figured out, like, I'm black. That's what I figured out, because it said that my blood comes from Ivory Coast. That's what it is. A lot of my blood comes from the region of the Ivory Coast. Don't tell my uncle that, because he's got all kinds of opinions on where we come from as black people in South Mississippi. And my opinion and his opinion is that we don't come from Africa. We are actually indigenous to South Mississippi. Whole nother conversation. But Ancestry told me that I was black. And so from there, that's all I needed. I remember in 10th grade, that was all I wanted to know. Like, am I black? Am I white? Am I Puerto Rican? Am I Mexican? And am I Dominican? So I got it done. And I remember the other thing that they tell you is they also tell you potential sibling matches or potential relative matches. And I remember seeing the list of relatives, black and white, because some of the white family members were ones that I knew. I remember my Aunt Jess, she was on there, and I knew it meant it was somewhat accurate because I knew that woman to be my aunt in real life. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. But I didn't really care. I'm at the time, I'm thinking I'm playing baseball. I'm a popular kid in school. I've got this lifestyle that I'm living. What the fuck do I need to know some guy that hasn't cared this whole time of my life? What do I need to care about who he is for? I've got this whole life. Why do I need to worry about my dad who isn't my dad? Because I've got a dad. So I wasn't really worried about it. But I remember senior year of high school, freshman year of college, I started getting a little curious. And that curiosity got to me 2019, April of 2019, when, this is crazy, I was planning the first ever LAN event at Mississippi State. It was called Bully LAN. So we invited Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida, all the SEC schools to an esports event at Mississippi State's campus. That was the first time Mississippi State had ever done it. I was responsible for planning the first ever LAN event event at Mississippi State's campus. I'm not responsible for it. I did it. I made myself responsible for it. And I remember in the middle of planning that, for whatever reasons, because I'm psychotic, I decided that I wanted to find my dad. And I remember I got back on Ancestry and I found the list of relatives. And it's a crazy story. I reached out to somebody who it said was my second or third cousin. Told him my story. Hey, my mom passed away. I'm from South Mississippi. I don't know my dad. My mom was born on this year. She graduated high school this year. Can you help me find him? And he sent me a message back and was like, hey man, I don't know who you are, but all the stuff that you just said makes me think that I might have some cousins who have some information for you. And the cousin that I'm referring to, the one that I reached out to, he is a professor at an HBCU. So he actually was like very, professional about it. And he was like, hey man, listen, I understand you're a kid trying to figure your life out. I want to help you, but for privacy's sake, I'm not just going to give you my cousin's first and last names and tell you to go reach out to them on Facebook. Let me reach out to them, and if they're open to it, I'll broker a conversation between you. So he does that. He reaches out to his cousins and he puts me in contact with a guy who I now know to be my uncle. I remember when he put me in contact with him, Art looked like me. And so I reached out to him and I was basically like, hey, I think you're my dad. Because my cousin told me you were, and your cousin told me you were, or you might be. And I remember he kind of reached back out to me and was like, yo, bro. He called me like that day, and he was like, yo, bro, I do not know. I'm not your dad. I'm too old to be your dad. I know who your mom is, but I did not have any relations with her. I did not know her. I was older than her. But I'm pretty sure my little brother graduated with her because he graduated the same year. I'm pretty sure he knew her because I remember her name. And so I'm going to reach out to him, and I'll let you know. This is 3 days before Bully Land starts. This is the week that we're planning for Bully Land. On one screen, literally in my dorm room, my student housing apartment, on one computer screen, just like these computer screens, quite literally these computer screens. On one computer screen, I have open Ancestry and Facebook to figure out what's going on with them. And on the other screen, I have spreadsheets and Discord open to figure out what I'm doing for Bully Land and talking to all the people that I need to that are part of MSU Esports. So it was crazy. I never forget it. I remember my friends telling me, all of my esports partners at the time, my vice president, my secretary, and all those people, yo man, don't you think this is like the worst time for you to be doing this? And I remember being like, yeah, but I want to do it, so I'm going to do it. So I kept doing it. And I'll never forget, after I reached out to Art, that the same day that I got a restricted phone call that day after talking to Art and kind of telling him my story. And I remember I get a phone call from a restricted number and I answer it, and we'll call him Matt for the story's sake, and it's Matt. And Matt says to me, hey man, my brother called me, told me that you think I'm your dad, but basically bro, I just wanted to let you know that I barely knew who your mom was. I never slept with her. I don't know who the fuck you are. Please never contact me again. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, thanks for nothing. Bye. At this point, my parents, had no idea that I was doing any of this. And I don't think I've told you guys this, but my parents ran a catering business for 25 years in that community. So they knew everybody. And so I remember I hadn't told my parents about it because they weren't super stoked about me trying to figure all this stuff out, because they knew my feelings were going to get hurt at some point. And they were right. They're still hurt. That's why we're talking about it today. And I called my Nana and I was just like, hey, this is what's going on. I told her about the Ancestry test. I told her about the cousin. I told her about Art. And told her about this restricted phone call that I had with Matt, where he basically told me he's not my dad. He has no idea who my dad is, and fuck off, basically. I remember my Nana told me, she was kind of mad, but she was like, hey, I think you need to reach out to somebody who used to work for me. And so I did. So I reached out to somebody who worked for her, and I told her the whole story. Told her all the different names of all the people, and was like, hey, I just talked to Matt. What do you know? She was like, interesting. She was like, so you're telling me, Jay, that this is somebody who I grew up with. I used to there's pictures of me sitting on people's laps, eating their food at my parents' restaurant. And this is a woman who used to come and grab me. She's working in the kitchen. She used to come and grab me and bring me back to the kitchen, because I wasn't supposed to be doing that. And so this woman helped raise me in my grandparents' kitchen, or in my grandparents' restaurant. And so, I tell her the story and tell her, what I had heard. And after I broke everything down for her, she was like, so Matt told you that he didn't know Jennifer and that he's not your dad? And I was like, yeah, and at this point, I'm not suspecting anything. I'm just trying to figure it out. And she was like, interesting. Well, she's like, honey, I'm not going to say nothing to you, but I think you should call him back. And I was like, well, I can't. I don't have his number. I figure out how to get back in contact with him. And so that was interesting. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up getting back in contact with my uncle and telling him, what my Nana's former employee told her, who I now know is also my family. I tell him that he's basically like, hey, I'll talk to him. I'll have him call you again and we'll figure this thing out. And so he calls me again that same day. And he was just like, hey bro, I hear you. I'm sorry for all the things that you're dealing with and going through, but I'm not your dad, bro. He's just like, I'm not your dad. I never slept with your mother. I didn't know your mother. That's it. And that was it. And that wasn't good enough for me. And I remember doing digging on Facebook that day. So at that point, I remember calling my Nana and telling her hey, I'm at a dead end. The lady you told me to call, that didn't really turn into anything. The uncle that I'm talking to, that didn't really turn into anything. Matt calling me, that didn't really turn into anything. So I'm just kind of I'm sitting here trying to figure out where to go next. Everybody basically told me to leave it alone. Let's just try to figure this thing out slowly. Maybe somebody will come out of the woodworks. person tell you something, I'm just, hey man, you've done a lot of pushing today, you made a lot of progress, just leave it alone. If you don't leave it alone, you might start freaking some people out who don't know you. And also, in this case, don't necessarily care about what you have going on. So I did the opposite of that. And what I did was I started digging on Art's Facebook. So I started digging down his Facebook, and I eventually found my dad and all of his different profiles, blah, 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 blah. And I found out that he had other kids at home. And so what I did was, against everybody's word, was I reached out to the mother of those kids and told her my story. It was just like, hey, my mother passed. I don't know my dad. She graduated these years. I'm pretty sure this guy's my dad, but he keeps telling me that he isn't. Is there any way that I can come home and do like a siblingship test with them? And my Nana told me not to do that. Art told me not to do that. The cousin that I reached out to initially told me not to do that. All of my friends were telling me not to do that, but I did it anyway. And bro, not only did she say yes, but she flew me out, paid for the blood work, and facilitated me meeting what became to be known as my half siblings. Because when I went home, we got the blood work test done, and the results came back as like, for me and my sister, it was like 2,000 to 1 odds that we were related. And for my brother, it came back as like 900 to 1 odds that we were related. So, and the way that I forget exactly the way that they do it, but they got some shit. They take your blood, they take your spit, they figure it the fuck out, and they tell you how likely it is that you guys are related. And like I said, ours was like 1,000,000 to 1 chance that we were related. And I remember, because I'm bitchy, like I'm a bitchy dude, and I remember taking a screenshot of those test results and sending it to the phone number that the guy who I thought was my dad, sending it to him. No words, just sent it to him. And I didn't hear from him for a while. This is like, and I think he had called me, maybe it was the weekend of Bullyland. I think it actually was the weekend of Bullyland. He called me that weekend and basically spilled his guts about why he didn't tell me he was my dad, why he hasn't reached out to me his whole life, why he isn't in his other kids' life. And then we talked for like an hour about all the different things that we share. Like he's an audio designer, he's like an audio engineer, and he's done stuff on like games like Smite. So like that was where I get like my sound and video game interests from. Really big hip hop guy. Big on like his body, he's like a holistic eater. He's a vegan, he only does holistic healing, all that. So there was a lot of different things that we talked about that I was like, holy shit, this is where I get this from. Because, you know, like growing up in South Mississippi with 6-year-old white grandparents, you don't really figure out why you like rap so much. You know what I mean? Or why you like video games so much. Because I ain't getting it from them. Love y'all, but I ain't getting it from y'all. It was really cool, I remember, to hear where I come from. Because like I've always known me, but I don't know my biological dad, who is not my dad. But it was cool to hear for the first time, you know, where I come from. And like why I am the ways that I am. And that was the last time I talked to him. The reason why I bring all of that up is because that's, as is talking to myself. That's kind of what I went through, and I know that was long and convoluted. But where I'm at today, which is 5 years later, is the same physical place, but depending on the hour, a different emotional place, right? Because, you know, we haven't talked since then, and obviously like back then I was mad and also sad, because if you guys have seen that Fresh Prince scene where Will Smith is like stomping his feet in the living room, he's like, why won't my dad love me, man? Like, why am I not good enough for him? That's how I felt, because it was just like, I'm this young kid at Mississippi State. I moved myself up there. I'm working in esports, dude. I'm making a name for myself completely by myself. My parents aren't helping me. I'm not some Nepo kid. And I had no help. And I was figuring shit out by myself. And here I am trying to extend an olive branch to this guy who obviously didn't want to be in my life. And he's rejecting me, actively removing himself from my life. And so I remember for a while, I felt like Will Smith in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Just like, why won't my dad love me? And after a point, I kind of got, you know, how I was growing up, was like, well, fuck him. You know, like, if you don't want to be in my life, I'm cool. Like, I'm dope. So my dad doesn't like me. He's just missing out. That's not how I feel. I feel that way about everybody. But it brought me to a place where, fuck him. Kind of how I felt about it. And now I'm just in a place where I'm constantly in between those two feelings. Well, what I've learned is that I don't need him. Obviously, I don't need my dad. I've always known that. I don't need my biological father, because all I need is my dad, Jason, because I love my dad. He's always been there for me. He was there for me this weekend when I was trying to change the oil on all of my cars and broke my freaking wrench and almost cried. I probably did cry. But basically, my dad's always been there for me. That's why I call him dad. That's why I refuse to call anybody dad at any point. Even if Matt re-enters my life, I will never call him dad, because he's not my dad. He's a sperm donor. That's how I look at it. But the big thing now is I'm kind of just between these two big emotions of, you know, fuck him, but also why won't he love me? It's really, I guess, conflicting, confusing, hard to feel this way while also navigating the everyday trials and tribulations of life. Just because you can't help but wonder. You can't help but wonder why somebody like that won't respond to you, or why somebody like that doesn't want to be in your life. For me, it's like, it has a lot to do with like blackness. I think for me, I struggle because I'm mixed, but I in the world views me as a black man. I view myself as a black man, and the world sees me as a black man. Because of that, I understand certain ways that we as black people keep ourselves down. And I think one of the ways that we do that is by fostering fatherless homes. And it's really hard for me because I found my dad. I know I made it a not super exciting story, but I found my dad, I found my cousins, I found my uncle, I found the black side of my family, man. And it's weird because everybody talks to me but him. His parents talk to me, my grandparents. I'm gonna see him when I go home in a couple weeks. Both of his brothers talk to me, his older brother, and he's the youngest brother, so both of his older brothers talk to me. Me and his kids talk. It's all those things are really hard because it's just hard to think about how we're gonna be better if we're no different. And I think that's one thing that's hard. I think the other thing that's hard is wonder how this will affect me over time. You know what I mean? Like I hope that, and I mean this world, I know that it won't because I know myself and I know the ways that I'm gonna be a great father. But I think there's always that back of mind fear that this can affect how you raise a kid, the ways that your fatherness comes out to a child. And I guess above all things, man, I guess it just hurts my feelings. You know what I mean? Like as hard as that is to say, as much as I don't want to admit it, it's really hard to be on Good Morning Arizona and be on Esports Illustrated and executive produce a TV show and live with a mountain view in Phoenix, Arizona, and still at the end of the day for your dad to not want to talk to you because I don't fucking want anything from you, dude. Keep your fucking money. You're a bum. I make more money than you, and if I don't, I will. It's the sadness mixed with the anger that you're hearing, and I'm just telling y'all about it because it's just something I want y'all to know I struggle with. Something that like it's not easy. It's something that I know a lot of my friends struggle with because I know a lot of my friends have dads in their lives, but also not in their lives, and it's just hard, man. And I think the biggest reason why I want to talk about it today is I just want to share with y'all something that I'm going through because it's hard, and also again like everything else, man, it's normal. It's normal to like with Sierra, dude. It's normal to be mad and sad and to want to punch him, but also want to hug him and to want to kiss them, but to stab them while you're kissing. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just such a whirlwind of emotions, dude, that it's just so hard to navigate. And it's not that it's hard to navigate, it's just hard to understand. Why do I want to talk to this guy who's never wanted to talk to me? I don't, but also at the same time I do. It's hard, dude. It's just hard. I found him while planning the biggest plan of my life. I've reached out to him during different periods of my life. I reached out to him recently because there's a chance I'll see him when I go home, and who knows if that'll happen because he's a bitch, so I doubt I will. It's just hard, man. And like just talking to myself, I just wanted to tell you guys how I was feeling about it because it's hard. That's it. And if you're going through it and it's hard for you, I just want you to know that it's normal because it is, dude. It's normal. It's normal to be going through these things. It's normal to be happy, mad, sad, upset at your dad. I guess if there's a lesson to share, something that I've learned about this is to be a fucking man, dude. If you got a kid out there, be a dad. And if you're somebody out there who, because my mom was this way to a degree, if you're somebody out there who's keeping their father away from their kid, grow the fuck up. Grow up. I know people where I'm from at home right now who have kids who are going to end up like me. They don't know who their dad is. They're being raised with somebody who thinks that their dad, that they think is their dad. And one day they're going to realize that their dad does not look like them. In my opinion, for those kids, one day is that their parents were too childish to get out of their own fucking way for their kids. My mom, and my dad are both responsible for that. Not my dad, my biological father. Love you, Jason. You're not responsible for any of these things. But man, like my biggest thing, if you're out there and you got fucking kids, grow up. Be there for them. I got a homie who, he's not even a homie, he's just somebody I played baseball with growing up who had a kid unexpectedly. And everybody didn't expect him to step up, but he did. Like he's raising a kid. I respect the hell out of him for that because there's a lot of people out there who aren't. And there's people like my dad who don't. And the fact of the matter is you do irreparable damage to not only the kid, but people in their lives, people in your family, people in the world by not being there for the person that you brought into this world. My dad, if you end up seeing this, grow up. If somebody out there who has kids out there who's not seeing them, grow up. And if you're a mother out there or either parent out there who is keeping their other parent away from their kid, grow up because you're going to do extreme and irreparable damage to a child who never asked for it. And my opinion is that most kids are not built for this. You guys know me. I've faced a lot of challenges. I've gone through a lot of shit. I've had to face things that I shouldn't have, including this one. And because of all the things that I've faced, I've been able to beat them. People in this world are not built for stuff like this. They're just not. And so if you can, my opinion is that if you can avoid something like this, do it. Sorry for this being a little bit different than normal, but man, I just wanted to tell you guys kind of the story about how I found my dad and the struggles that I have right now. Not so much what I've learned. I told you guys a little bit about what I've learned, but the struggles that I have related to this thing that I still go through. So again, if you're out there and you're trying to figure out if this is normal, if these feelings are normal, they are. And if you're out there and you're trying to figure out if you should be there for your kid, it's a simple answer. Be there for your kid. So that's it. That is episode 3, baby, of Talking to Myself. I think this is the first one that I put out when I'm supposed to. So if you like that, like, comment, subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. Smash it. Smash it. That. I will never do that again. But if you like this video, seriously, like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. Trying to get to 100 subs. When we get to 100 subs, I will do something cool. If you have an idea, put it in the comments. There we go. Thank you for being here. Love you guys. Catch you next Monday and throughout the week. Love you guys. Bye.